Every time I get in a plane now, I think about this event that occurred about 10 years ago. This happened in New York City. A plane was leaving LaGuardia, and as you can see, they got into an accident shortly after takeoff, and birds took out their engines. And this is going to teach us something. Pay attention to the pilots, their actions, their faces as they begin to work through this problem and try to come up with a solution. There's a lot I think we as doctors need to take from our friends in the airlines. If you remember, they're carrying hundreds of people at any given time. They have to be planning and preparing to take care of any emergency event that may take place, and they have to remain focused, and they have to constantly be thinking about all the different options that are available to them so they can take the best actions and the best steps needed in order to save the lives that are in their hands. Okay, so he's circling around, he's thinking about his options, what he can do, whether he can go to this airport or that airport. He has no engines at all. Every engine was taken out. And there's something that comes to his mind that he's going to attempt to do that had never been done before in the history of aviation and done successfully. Watch this. I love that expression on that other pilot's face because he looks scared to death, as many of us are sometimes in situations. So both engines out, he sets it down on the Hudson River and does something that had never been done in the history before of aviation. And he saved 155 lives by doing that. Now the question is, and what we can, as physicians, can learn from this, how did he know he could do that? That's because these guys spend 6 hours every 6 months in one of these. This is a flight simulator. Okay, you hope every time you get in a plane that your pilot has done this training, okay? Because if an event happens that requires him to make decisions and think through those things you just saw that pilot do in a very quick manner, you hope your pilot has been in one of these and is trained to do that, because simulation time has a purpose, and it's to prevent stuff like this. Okay, now as physicians, we need to have that same commitment to make sure we and our team is ready to perform in the difficult situations that we encounter every day. Because as intensive care physicians, as emergency medicine physicians, as all physicians, we're going to be faced in an environment where somebody's life is in our hands, and we need to make sure we can step up to that challenge and make the right decision, because our simulation time has a purpose too. And are you going to be ready to save that life and make those decisions when you need to make them? So our objective for this talk is to learn the tools that you need to have in order to do regular simulation training. And the first question we want to ask, why do we need to do simulations in the first place? That's because there's going to be a number of babies that are going to reach the point that requires a resuscitation. In Jordan, that's approximately 20,000 babies a year that are going to be born, that are going to be in some type of situation or some type of circumstance that the person that is attending the delivery has to take some advanced steps in order to resuscitate that baby and give that baby the best start possible. So there's 4 things that regular simulations are going to improve. They're going to improve our confidence. That pilot in that video looked pretty cool, calm, and collected. He was able to perform under stress. I think we've all seen physicians before, and maybe have been one of those ourselves, who under a stressful situation sometimes doesn't perform as well as we would like to. Okay, and that comes back to haunt us later. It also helps us to work as a team better when we do those simulations with other people that we work with on a daily basis that are on our team. And ultimately, it's going to help improve patient outcomes. This is something that the Millennium Development Goal by the World Health Organization has identified, reducing infant mortality rates. There's 1.3 million babies a year who are going to die at the time of delivery or around that time of delivery due to those events that occur. There are some things that the Neonatal Resuscitation Program has deemed keys to success when we're involved in code situations and when we are performing these neonatal simulations. I'm going to go through all of these with you here briefly, and then the ones underlined we're going to address in some more detail. We want to know our environment. We want to use all the available information. We want to anticipate and plan. We want to make sure we clearly identify a team leader. We want to make sure we're communicating effectively, that we delegate the workload and what needs to be done, that we allocate our attention wisely, that we use our available resources, that we make sure we call for additional help, and make sure we maintain professional behavior. So let's deal with that anticipate and plan very quickly. I like to think about this as building boxes. This is what we do in simulation. I think Dr. Gonzalez referred to this earlier, that our life experiences and the things that we encounter in our clinical practice helps us to build models in our mind of decisions that we may make in the future as we encounter a situation, or how our therapies may interact with this patient. And the more mental models we build, the better we become at approaching a problem. And so our simulation training is going to help us build more mental models. And not only that, but it's going to allow us to make mistakes without harming somebody in those simulation situations and training opportunities. We also want to make sure we clearly identify a team leader, and simulation training will help us do that. So a couple years ago, I put up a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo. I got in trouble for doing that because I found out that Jordan is more of a Messi guy, a Messi place, and I like Messi too. When you see Messi take the field, who is the team leader? It's Messi, right? Everybody knows to mark Messi, that if Messi gets the ball, he's going to make some magic happen. Now, what if you put Messi on this team? It would be pretty messy, probably. Even if you put the best player in the world with the worst team, he probably couldn't improve them that much. I believe you're all the best doctors in the world, but if we don't put an investment into the team that we're on, you're not going to be very good. Okay, we have to make sure we share our knowledge, and we can do that through simulation training. And we have to make sure we surround ourselves with just as good a team as Messi have. Okay, we've got to make effort. We've got to put effort into making our teams great. All right, practicing together and teaching our team allows us to learn two things: how to effectively communicate, and it makes sure everybody knows what their duties are going to be in that code situation, in that dire situation and circumstance that we find ourselves in. There's another thing that simulation training allows us to learn to do, which is something that's very important for us as physicians, especially when we're the team leader. It allows us to allocate our attention wisely. Okay? I think you get the point here. Somebody didn't allocate their attention wisely. Fortunately, people survived this crash. So dire circumstances sometimes help us learn who we are. And one of the things when we find ourselves in dire situation, there's something called tunnel vision. Okay, and when you analyze these pilots who have or analyze plane crashes where nobody survived and listen to the conversations that take place in the cockpit and see what people are doing with their instruments, is that somebody gets focused on one little thing that is of complete insignificance. Okay, that's called tunnel vision. And if we as the team leader don't step back and try to assess all the information that's rushing to us in that code situation, we too are going to have tunnel vision, and we're going to miss the big picture. Okay? I don't want you to miss the big picture. So as the team leader, step back, teach your team those certain roles that you want them to do, teach them to step in and do things, and you be there to be messy and make the magic happen. All right, so how do we create a simulation? This is some of the things I want to leave you with. We want to make it as realistic as possible. I want you to use real equipment, and I'm going to show you here in just a second how we do this. You want to review your expectations with your team. Don't always announce what you're about to do. I like to sneak up to our neonatal intensive care unit late at night when people think I've left the hospital and surprise my night shift with simulations. It's absolutely great. Minimize interaction between the simulation that you're doing, and then make sure you debrief once it's over. Right? You need a couple of other things too. You need to have a newborn simulator. Okay, there's all kinds of these. You can spend $30,000 on a state-of-the-art, high-tech newborn simulator to $60 for one of these. I'm going to show you how to make one of these $60 simulators just as good as one of the $30,000 simulators. You can purchase this in Laidall's Global Health Program. They're able to give you a discount there. There is this app that's available on the iTunes App Store that helps you create a simulation monitor. Okay, I discovered this several months ago. We've been using this with some of our easy training programs to teach people how to do simulations. I've been in contact with the man who developed this. He has agreed to drop the cost to $1 today if anybody wants to download this from the iTunes Store to get your simulation program up and going. So what will happen if you start a simulation training program? This is data out of France. They took two different groups in some provincial French hospitals and looked at their technical scores on some scenarios. Okay, as you can see, no difference. The first go around and the two different scenarios, the groups were absolutely identical. This group in gray, they spent several weeks in between their evaluations, letting them do simulation training. Guess what? They improved significantly. No change in the group in white, significant change in the scenario performance in the group that actually worked together and trained together and learned how to do simulations correctly. Not only that, but their performance and ability to work together as a team improved too. So back to my original question, what are you willing to do for the babies? What are you willing to do? Messy, We got to go back to messy because he's the greatest. My ambition is to always get better and better. That's what I want you to be able to say too. So how are we going to do that? How do we get better and better? This is some video from a simulation that we did in our neonatal intensive care unit. How much time do I have? 2 minutes? All right. I'm going to skip through some of this. I'm just going to show you some quick points on how we do this. We videotape all of our simulations, okay? Videotapes do not lie. Your cell phone that everybody has in their pocket that has a video camera on it, it's what we do. Okay, it does not lie. It tells the truth. If somebody thinks they did something right, you can show them that they either did or that they didn't. But you want to have the right setting. We do it actually in our neonatal intensive care unit and in our L&D unit. We have a woman set up over there who's screaming and carrying on, acting like she's delivering a baby. Don't let the team know that you're about to do this. And we send them over there to walk in. And when they walk in, they're using an equipment that's specifically for simulation training that's set up just like our actual code boxes. And all of these are old expired equipment or just water that we're using for medications. And then we let the team go to work, okay? We make sure they get the right information. They've got to ask the 4 questions when they walk in. How many are there? How old are we? What color was the fluids? Is there anything else I need to know? And then they've got to assess the situation by placing on the monitors and beginning the resuscitation. Even though I've watched this numerous times, I always see something that we did wrong on this video here. If I had time, I would show it to you and we would see if we could pick all the little things out. This is the simulation monitor I was telling you about. We just set that up on a iPad and then control it with an iPhone. And it is a very realistic monitor that gives real-time information that somebody is controlling in response to how the team is doing. All right, we also make sure that the right skills and teamwork is there. In this case, I'm the leader. I'm stepping back, not getting tunnel vision, taking all that information in, telling people what to do. The only time I step in is to intubate. Okay, then I step back again and assess what my team is doing, making sure we're doing the right things and doing it in the right order and in the right way. And finally, once this is done, we debrief. Okay, these are the questions we want to ask. Team, what went right? Team, what went wrong? How can we improve? And as the person who's assessing the simulation, I want to encourage you to be aware of other people's perspective and emotion. Sometimes people know that they blew it, okay? When the baby dies at the end of the simulation and they weren't able to resuscitate the baby, they know they did something wrong and people get upset. Simulation training is very stressful. It's very realistic. That's why it helps prepare us for the real world. Okay, and finally, when we're done, we can say goal. That's what we were able to do in Azerbaijan. Okay, I worked at 2 of the largest neonatal intensive care units in that country, the National Perinatal Center and the Pediatric Research Institute. Shared this information with them there. They were able to set up simulation training programs in their hospitals. I would encourage you to look at doing something like that here. It can make you better. It can improve care for your babies, and that's what we're ultimately trying to do. And the babies will thank you for that.